Welcome, Moonstoners, to another Twisted ToddCast tasting. My name is Todd Clift, aka Mr. Moonstone, and I will be your Grape Stomping host today. Today we're going to learn how to pull a cork out of a bottle. This is a very necessary skill if you want to get something into this glass. So today I have stolen a corkscrew. This is a waiter's corkscrew that I got from when I used to work at Moonstone Cellars. Don't tell them. So again, I have to be next to the refrigerator. Since it's been a long day and I need something refreshing, I'm pulling out the 2008 Viognier. So how do we go about doing this? Well, the first thing is I don't want to hurt myself with this corkscrew. So I'm going to close down the screw, I'm going to close down the lever, and I'm going to open up the knife. I guess that's counterintuitive to think that by opening a knife I'm not going to hurt myself. Alright, so what do we got here? We've got the capsule. This is known as a capsule. It gets spun onto the bottle. Check out our podcast of the bottling and you can see how that's done. But there's a couple ways to go about this. If you're in a fine restaurant, typically they cut the very tip of the capsule off, and that allows the beauty of the capsule to remain. Some winemakers are very particular about the look of this. We have some nice little waves that go around the bottom of ours, so I like to have it there. Otherwise, some more strong, buff, brutal sommeliers may just rip the whole foil right off. But you'll find that some bottles have the foils on way too tight in order to do that. My uncle hates that. He says, Todd, what can you do about making them nice and loose? Of course, I don't want them loose because you pull them out of the rack and they slip out of your hands. All bad. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and cut the foil off the top first. So what I do is, this has got a nice little serrated edge on it. I just put my thumb on the opposite side, and usually, like bracing with my knee, I'll just kind of twist and go around the bottle a couple times by twisting the bottle until I get a nice cut. Now, there are other ways that you can do it as well. They have foil cutters. Some work well, some work not so well. You probably got to spend at least $10, $15, $20 to get one that'll work pretty well. Now that we have the top part cut, all we have to do is lift it off. I'm trying to do it real nice. See how nice and pretty that is? And you know, if you remember your high school days where you take bottle caps and you'd put them between your fingers, you could snap them and there it goes. Not bad, all the way across the bar. Alright, so now the second step, and this is going to be tricky for a lot of people. Especially with this kind of corkscrew. We should try some other corkscrews later, but for now, we're going to use the waiter's corkscrew because I think it's the quickest, most efficient, and everyone should learn how to use one of these. They're affordable, they're workhorses, and I'm going to say one thing about them. They need to have about 5 turns in them, 5 or 6 ideally, and you need to be able to look down through the worm or the screw. Now this one is pretty true. It's probably hard to see, but some of them have a shaft that go down and have blades that go around the shaft. That's no good. That just bores a hole right through it, and you can just strip out the whole cork, especially if it's a dry, bad one. So here, we've got a nice screw. This thing is real worn down. Notice how it's black. It's actually Teflon coated. This is my preference. It makes the worm go through smoothly. You can also get them where they're grooved all the way around, and you'll see that on like a chrome one. Those are pretty good too. Those work nice. You'll see those on actually some of the nicer Leul corkscrews from France. So don't be, the Teflon eventually wears off. That's the only downside of this, but it is smoother going in and squeaks less, especially if you're trying to sneak a bottle of wine late at night. You don't want anybody to hear, or you're stealing it from a buddy who's in the next room. Alright, so here's the trick to starting these things out. Most people make the mistake of putting the tip of the worm right at the top of the cork, right in the middle. The problem with that is if you start there, as the worm goes in, you're going to go down the side of the cork and you're going to start blasting and crumbling away the cork against the side of the bottle. So what you need to do, if you figure that's, I don't know, a couple centimeters across, you need to offset yourself like 1 centimeter. So instead of putting it in the dead center, I'm going to move toward the edge just a little bit, but then I'm going to move my worm toward the center. Now when I put my worm in, you'll see that it is very close to being dead center. So now we just screwed the worm in, nice and steady like. See, there's not too much squeaking with this style. And then to pull out, I know that's not everybody's favorite method, but if you're going to get the wine out, that's what you got to do. put the lever down like that, raise it up, and some of these have a two-step lever process. So you want to put the bottom one in first, and you'll see it kind of hooks along the side, but you got to be careful because it could slip completely off. So what I do is I put my finger against the side of the lever and the bottle, and then lift. Now, here's another thing that I see people do, and this is how you crack or break corks. They'll lever it, they'll keep levering it, and see how it's starting to bend over like that? Not so good. So bring it to where it's straight up. I'll use my knee, but normally you can just use a table. So as you're lifting, just keep pulling it upwards as opposed to over, and that'll keep you from breaking corks in half. Once it's up about that far, you can actually pull it by hand pretty easily. So just put your hand over the whole cork and lever mechanism, just give it a couple twists. I love that sound. Alright, so here comes the most important part, is pouring it. Alright, so now that you know how to use a waiter's corkscrew, if things go really bad with the economy, at least I've given you a backup position as a local wine steward, sommelier, and if nothing else, a way to get into your own stash. Thank you very much. Join us for the next podcast, ToddCast, and until then, cheers to you.